Today, we're going to take a close look at what is currently the most realistic and lifelike Grogu figure that's available. What's up guys, I am Tsu, and in this video, I'm going to go over all the information and details regarding this figure. This figure is manufactured by the company SideShow Collectibles in conjunction with the world-renowned Legacy Effects studio. This figure retails for $375 US. In my case, factor in taxes and shipping fees, and the checkout total was $425.25. This video is not sponsored by SideShow, as I paid for this figure with my own money, so this is a completely independent review. There is no limited or exclusive version. This is the only SKU that SideShow manufactured, so everyone who is interested in this figure will get the same package. No FOMO or missing out on anything. Also, this is an open production run. As of now, there is no limit on how many of these SideShow is selling. And it makes sense because this is one of the most popular characters in pop culture right now. Make your money SideShow, I surmise you're going to be selling a lot of these. Grogu, as you imagine, is not a large size character, so a life-size figure in his likeness doesn't take up too much space. Standing on the included base, the total height is 16 inches, width is 13 inches mainly from his ears, and his depth is roughly 9.25 inches due to the base. In metric, those measurements are 40.64 centimeters in height, 33.02 centimeters in width, and 22.8 centimeters in depth. The diameter of the base, as stated before, is 9.25 inches, and its height is 1.5 inches. In metric, that's 23.5 centimeters for the diameter and 3.81 centimeters for its thickness, which you can actually forego the use of the base altogether, in which without the base, his height is 14.5 inches and his depth is 6.5 inches, depending on how his garb is shaped. Those measurements in metric is 36.83 centimeters in height and 16.51 centimeters in depth. With a base, Grogu's weight is a total 6.90 pounds, which is 3.13 kilograms. Without the base, Grogu alone weighs 3.5 pounds, which is 1.59 kilograms. So the base weighs nearly as much as the entire figure itself. Grogu standing alone without the base, in my opinion, greatly adds some realism and a wow factor to the overall look. Though I don't completely recommend it because you will obviously be sacrificing its independent stability. So to test how stable he was without the base, I did some non-scientific tip over and stability tests just to see how much it would take to actually knock him over without the base. Much to my surprise, he does have a decent degree of stability if you accidentally banged into whatever he is displayed on. Direct accidental contact may not fare as well, but he does have some flexibility at the point of what it'd take before he completely falls forward or backwards. Regardless, I don't recommend leaving him off his base, with the exception of him being in a completely safe enclosure or just to see how he looks without his base from time to time. Grogu has a static museum pose with an upward gaze that cannot be adjusted to tilt. It only swivels, so he's best displayed at a below eyeline level. At a close glance, his face has very close details from the pores in his skin to even the veins in the sclera white parts of his eyes. The base he stands on resembles the floor grating of Din's Razor Crest ship. An optional attachment in the form of the lever knob from the Razor Crest attaches magnetically. There are quite a few varying materials that have come together to form this figure. His head is made of a semi-flexible, softer PVC-like plastic, while his body is a more rigid ABS-like plastic. His hands and feet are also a more rigid plastic as well. He has individually punched in rooted hair, and his eyes are made of a glassy clear, perhaps a type of acrylic orb. His fabric garb is multi-layered with a fleece inner lining, plastic zipper, and a magnetic button in the collar. There's also a wire in the collar to help pose and position it as desired. The base is primarily, if not entirely, plastic. I don't believe there is any resin mix at all in this figure. Now moving on to the paint. And since his body is almost entirely covered by the garb, his face is pretty much the main talking point here. Since his face is made of a softer semi-translucent plastic, there is a small amount of depth to the paint applied on his face. The pores on his skin do help with the realism of the paint. It's a very light minty green with some rose-colored cheeks and some more pink around his eyelids and ears, though some have already criticized about his cheeks being too rosy compared to what we've seen on the show. I reviewed some footage from the show for this video, and this is definitely an area of contention, because depending on what device you are watching the show on, whether it be a mobile phone, tablet, TV, projector, maybe a PC, Combined with the color settings or color profiles you may have, not everyone is seeing the same colors on the show. Not to mention everyone's eyes are different. That said, I do believe there is a little more pink on his cheek from what I'm seeing. But it's strange because on the show, his overall colors do vary from time to time, depending on the setting or mood of the scene. That's why I say it's an area of contention. It's not just his cheeks, but his overall color palette on the show compared to this life-size, lifelike rendition of him. I think that's also attributed to the team that works on the color space in post-processing for the show. I will say that there is a difference in paint and finish from his face to his hands and feet here. That's attributed to his hands and feet being of a different material than what his head is. The nails on his hands and feet also have a clear coated finish over them. Also, his main body underneath the garb, while it is a minty green, it's completely devoid of any paint or detail. It's just a generic plastic mold that gives the garb shape. That said, I won't even bother including footage in this video of it because it's completely unremarkable. In my opinion, to get the most out of the paint for Grogu or any life-size figure in general, he's best displayed under warm, natural style lighting. It definitely helps with his colors and lends more realism to the paint. Also, his face is best displayed under a softer light. Otherwise, his face gets a very unflattering, waxy finish and look to it. Pretty cool figure so far, right? But let's talk about my personal discrepancies with it. So the overly rosy cheeks we already discussed. Another thing I noticed is that though the hair is punched in on his cranium, there are some hairs missing on the upper parts of his ears as opposed to what we've seen in the series. Also with the hair, in the series it has had small variances on its length from time to time, but we've mostly seen a very short, almost buzzed cut look. On this figure, his hair has a bit more length to the point where it's actually scraggly and curls a bit. This Grogu figure is very limited in articulation as well. His head only swivels and is always looking upwards. Grogu has no other points of articulation whatsoever. And considering his main body torso is a generic plastic and is completely covered by his garb, I'm dumbfounded why the only articulation on this Grogu figure is a swivel point in its neck. Some folks have already made modifications to this figure to add articulation to him, which was actually done with great effect. Check out Adam Savage's tested YouTube channel for the process he went through. I've heard some criticism that his garb is a little too clean, which I agree with, but also his garb is a bit shorter in length here than what we've seen in the series. I don't believe we've ever seen his feet on the show, and if we have, I don't believe it's due to the shorter length of his garb. The eyes they use on this figure aren't made of glass. It seems to be an acrylic or a type of plastic as mine arrived with very fine micro scratches on them. You can only see them when the light hits his eyes at certain angles and at very, very close viewing distances, so it's not a big deal, but it is a bit distracting if and when you do notice them. So for anyone cleaning, I recommend either using one of those puff air squeeze dust cleaners or a very soft makeup brush, and absolutely avoid a microfiber cloth. That said, whatever his eyes are made of, it would have been really, really nice if the eyes were made of glass. Also, the optional lever knot doesn't have a believably milled or machined look. Instead, it has a polished automotive paint application that just doesn't resemble anything that would be found on the Razor Crest ship. Final thoughts. In the end, I think it's a great figure. A life-size replica that is $375 US retail is almost unheard of. If I remember correctly, it was reported that Jon Favreau stated that the original master prop costed $5 million US to make, which makes this figure's $375 US retail the deal of the millennium. Falcon, right? Come on. His small footprint and lightweight frame make him very manageable and easy to display. And though I don't recommend displaying him without his base, it is cool that you have that option, which really does elevate the realism for this Grogu figure. Is it hyper-realistic though? And it's hard to say because Grogu doesn't exist in the real world, so there's nothing to compare him to. I think the actual question is he believably translated into this form? Well, it'll definitely depend on how he is displayed. With soft, warm lighting and without the base, it gets pretty darn close. The waxiness of his skin texture is always going to negate that hyper-real look that I think a lot of people ideally want in a figure like this. If you don't mind waiting for more options, there are other life-size, lifelike renditions of him in the works from various companies. Since the high demand and popularity of this character, other versions of a lifelike Grogu do have some headroom to improve over this one. Regardless, at the time of this upload, this is the most realistic it gets for a Grogu figure. So if you're looking for the highest fidelity in a collectible of Grogu, right now, this is currently the one to beat. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. If you're interested in the rocket duster or any of the other products I used in conjunction with this video, such as this mat or the mechanical turntable, I will leave my Amazon affiliate link for those products down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for stopping on by and taking a look at Grogu with me. If you guys like this video and if it is worthy of your like, please let me know and hit that button down below. I heard it helps with the algorithm and that it'll get this video out to other folks like you and I who are into this kind of stuff. If you are not already and believe that I am worthy, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below and notification bell so I can keep pumping out this content to you. Also, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this figure. Until next time, don't worry about what others think. Keep collecting the things that you love, and I'll see you in the next upload. Take care. All right, you know what? This is actually pretty cool. This is a pouch I use for my dog. A lot of people are just always going to refer to him as Baby Yoda. There is no Grogu. Grogu does not exist. There is only Baby Yoda. The Mandalorian, to me, it's so good. Like, that has done so much for the Star Wars franchise. But you know what else was also good that came out fairly recently? The Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game. And it adds more to the lore, more to the universe. It is a great time to be a fan